It's definitely less than 29.
Yeah.
Hey, Lindsay.
Jay.
Last week we weren't here, but this week we're here. Do you know what day it is?
It is Tuesday, the 22nd.
Good guess. And our guest is Mr. Andy Powers himself. By the way, it's Taylor Primetime. Welcome, everybody. What time is it, Andy?
What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. It's prime time. What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the internets of the world, welcome to Prime Time. We're very pleased to have Mr. Andy Powers back again. Hey, Andy. And we hope you all enjoyed the week off. Lindsay went and bought some new light bulbs. She's looking fine. Hey, Lindsay, how you doing?
Hi, Andy.
Say hello to Jay on Prime Time.
That's great.
Thank you. We're back. Hey, everybody. It's been so long since we've been on Primetime, especially with Mr. Powers. He was the first. Andy, you were the first guest on season 2, episode 2. You know what I'm saying? Season 2. And we talked about what's new for 2021. And today we're going to talk about your inspiration in guitar design, which is going to be really exciting. But you know the deal. We have some segments that we have to get out of the way real quick, or else we don't want to upset anybody, right, Mr. Lund?
Never
want to upset anybody.
Right. Cut the jibber jabber.
We're going to cut
Good luck.
We don't want to chit chat too much. Ben all chit chat anyway. Okay. So with that said, stick around until the end of the show. As you guys know, we have trivia, and tonight's trivia prize is extra special. Our friend Z, who hangs out with us every single Tuesday night, is going to pay for 1 month. He wanted to give 1 month of Tony Policastro's acoustic challenge to somebody, to the trivia winner for tonight. How cool is that? Z?
That's awesome.
That's
you
amazing.
are awesome. And
Amazing.
the fact that you want to do that is spectacular. So we thank you. We are grateful for you, man, for hanging out with us every single week. So we're going to hopefully we make this one special for you, Z. But everybody stick around for trivia. All right, let's get into some segments real quick. You know the deal. This one, we have been searching high and low for hate around this place, and we got some.
Yay.
Okay.
Let me play a useless clip, and then we'll sing a song, and then we'll talk about the hate. Hug Your Haters theme song. Go.
Sometimes we chit and chat too much for the average viewer. It's understood if you feel prime time is simply unwatchable. Maybe you don't like the show. Maybe you don't have enough time. Maybe you can't make it through. It's okay. It's what we do. will show you some love. Hug the hater. Show some love. We bid adieu.
Oh, goodness gracious. I like how that was the 15-minute version.
Right. And then was it a megaphone sound effect? I like that. Yes, it was good. It was good. Good.
So much dumb, banal,
Yeah.
chit chat. What a great word. Get to the reviews. So what I realized is that anybody that gives us hate, they don't watch the show live. That's the deal. We got to invite people to watch the show live so that they'll understand these wonderful songs and these corny bits. They're just part of the deal. Anyway, there was a second comment, and the second comment was great. Unwatchable. Who has time for this? Well, we have time every Tuesday night, unless we're on a break. So we're here. We are grateful for you guys. We love to give hug to our hate and show the love just a little bit. We really are grateful for you guys, but we're going to keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. One of these, maybe in the next 15 minutes, we'll get to Andy, and he's pretty smart. Just hang around and listen to it. All right. So, Andy, this is great. You haven't had a chance to play the new segment of the show. We have a game. It's called, well, let me show him what it's called.
Oh,
It's
yes.
called,
Yeah.
This is a new game called the draft. Tonight we'll play with Andy. Play the draft. We never know what we're drafting. We don't know why we play. We play it anyway. It's called the draft.
So, Andy, we know how much you're into sports, so we wanted to add this segment. Basically, this is like the NFL draft or the NBA draft or the MLB draft. This has to do with music, though. It's musical topics, all right? We don't know what the draft topic is. Our social media manager, Matt Steele, makes it, and we don't know what it is. We're seeing it for the first time. Here we go. And, tonight's draft. Since the 4th of July is coming, what 3 artists / bands will be on your summer barbecue playlist? I like that. That's a good one. That's great. All right.
That's
so
a
we're
solid
right in a circle, starting with you, Mr. Powers. What is your first draft? Who, what band, what artist are you drafting first?
I'm kind of a fan of the Beach Boys. Like more like Good Vibrations era. I mean, the harmony parts can't really be beat. Pretty epic. Probably go with the Meters. Big Meters fan. That would be good.
Do
yeah,
this.
Isn't that what that is?
Go for it. No,
Sorry, I don't know the rules of the game, so I'm learning as we go here.
He's gonna go all three right now.
I was gonna do all 3.
Woo, he's ready.
So I'd think Meters. Got to mix some of that in. Maybe. Ooh. What about Gene Vincent? Yeah, go with Gene Vincent.
Gene Vincent. I love
it. You guys know who that is, right? With
Gene
Cliff
Vincent.
Gallup on guitar, rockabilly guy. If you don't, you should.
Okay.
Okay, Gene Vincent. Everybody, write that down.
So
I'm writing it
disappointed
down
right now.
I'm sorry.
Disappointed. Yeah, but
sorry.
This is why we had you on the show, because you're smarter than we are.
Right.
No, I just have lowbrow taste sometimes. It's like some of the coolest guitar music ever.
All right, Lund.
Foo Fighters, definitely.
Okay.
Strong.
Backyard barbecue material.
Strong.
And nothing says 4th of July like Bob Marley, I think. So some Rasta on the menu. And I wasn't expecting to have to pull up all three so quick, Andy. Normally we have a little bit of time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to pass for just a minute and let Lindsay do 2 or 3 if she's ready.
No, I'm not ready for 3. I'm thinking through. So I'm gonna go Ghost Notes right at the top.
All right.
If you don't know who they are, none of you guys know who they are, huh? They're amazing. They're amazing. Do yourself a favor. Ghost Notes,
Okay.
and then I'll probably go second. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Jay, you go. I'm
You
saving my.
All right. I'm gonna go with summer playlist. Why not? Run DMC.
Yes.
The whole catalog.
Yes.
Run
The
DMC.
whole catalog.
Yeah, I'm into it. For summer playlist, for some reason they always make it on my summer playlist. Do I have to do 2 right now, or Lund? Can you do your third?
I'm just going to go Beatles because I can just play all weekend long and nobody will ever get sick of it, whether it's breakfast or lunch or dinner time over the whole 4th of July weekend.
But okay. So
Okay.
can I make a comment on that?
You can.
I love the Beatles, but I think they need cloudy skies. Okay. By that I mean, if you're thinking hot summer outdoor barbecue, the Beatles, you kind of need like a pea coat and like some clouds in the sky and at least maybe like a little drizzly rain to fully Beatle it out, right?
Right. So it's like if 4th of July in Liverpool, kind of is like what we're.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's nice. All right. I'm ready. I'm gonna probably have like let's go the Roots. The Roots.
That's a good one.
Oh, that's a real
Solid.
good one.
Good choice.
That's a really good one. Oh man.
All right, Jay, it's you and me now.
But I mean, I know it's you and me. It's like we're at the final. Like they gave up their draft
They
picks.
gave it up too quick.
Okay.
Beach Boys is good though, Andy. That's a good.
That was
one.
a great
I'm
one.
gonna go Beach Boys, but Andy knows. Aretha.
Yeah.
I always put on Aretha in the summer. I have
That's
a
a good
ton
one.
of records. So Aretha Franklin. Yeah. That's a good one for me.
Okay.
Go for it.
Could I put some more on? Can I throw some more in? Oh, you didn't get to
You
finish
get
your
extra
list.
draft picks because you're the guest.
Yeah,
I've thought of some
can
more
do it.
good ones.
Okay.
You can do it.
I'd want to put Stevie Wonder's Talking Book record on there.
That's a good one.
I'd want to mix in some Chuck Berry,
I thought about Chuck Berry too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe a little bit of Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're gonna have a fun.
for-
You're gonna have a
for
fun
labor.
party. You're gonna have a
it's-
fun party.
Andy's party's great.
Yeah.
Mine has Run DMC still though.
You still have Run DMC. I have the Roots though.
Yeah, you do have the Roots. So our
And
party would also be
You
great.
get to claim the roots. There.
They get to claim it. And Ghost Note is like phenomenal. When you listen to them, you're gonna be like, "Holy smokes, they're insane." Let's see. If I was gonna pick a third, because I can't. He's a guest. He gets like 7. But if I was gonna pick a third, let's see. I want some like funk, so I'm trying to think who do I want. And he picked the Meters. I mean, you can
Put
go
Dave
James
Brown on.
Brown. You could do James Brown. I know, but I feel like that's so
Yeah.
cliche. But he's worth
No,
it.
it's not. It's
so
it's cliche because it's that good.
I know, because I'm thinking, okay, well, do I go George Clinton in Parliament? Because that would be fun. That would be a Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye.
Okay, I'll throw some Marvin Gaye on in the party.
Well,
All right.
I'm glad
You could easily add in, Temptations. You could add in Four Tops. You could add in anything that flavor, and it would be really cool.
Totally.
I think it's fair.
Ohio players would be great. Slave. Oh God, come on.
I think it's fair right now because Andy got like 17. That Lund gets 2 more. Lund gets 2 more. You get 2 more, and I get 2 more. So I'm gonna go real quick with the specials. Okay, Lund, go.
Yep.
Tom Petty. I'm going to add Tom Petty to the list for sure. On the 4th
Winner.
of July.
Greatest. I love him. Lindsay.
I'm gonna go Sly and the Family Stone.
Ooh,
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm gonna go
Yep.
Teddy Pendergrass.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right, Lund, your last one.
Ugh.
Andy's party is still amazing.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
Andy Powers got all the. Okay, so let's go. Lund, you come on. One more.
I know. I'm thrown right now. I got to come up with something good, something warm and sweaty, and it's got to be a guitar band. States, like who is it? Who are we missing? It's like
Well, I got my last one. Do you want me to skip?
go ahead.
Andy's
put in
got
the
it.
Ventures or something.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Get some Gladys Knight and the Pips going on there.
Oh,
Have some fun.
Gladys.
Come on.
The Pips.
Yeah.
Gladys.
Hey, I'll go. My last one. I'm gonna bring it into like modern day. I'm gonna get Kingfish. He's getting ready to release his album Juke Joint, and I just know it's gonna be on fire. So I'm gonna get Kingfish.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go with the Cars. Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh. Okay.
Cars. Yep. Andy, Lund, you got one more, and then we got to move this show along. We
Right.
don't chit chat too long.
Get some Prince in there. Come on, Andy.
All right,
How did
Prince in there.
I miss that?
I'm gonna go Rolling Stones.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's solid.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
How come no one has picked the Stones yet?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Wow. All right. Good job. Good draft, everybody. That was fantastic.
That was fantastic.
We should have Andy Powers just jump in on the draft every once in a while because
I think so.
You're good at this, Andy. All right. The next segment that we have is a new segment. It is, what did we call it? Live lessons.
Live lessons.
Lindsay and Lund.
Yeah,
Do you have a song?
I think so.
Live lessons, lovely live lessons, lean live lessons with Lindsay and Lund.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the song.
I love it. Good job.
Nice.
What's the lesson tonight, Andy Lund?
The lesson tonight is an introduction to what is known as, and musicians call, the circle of fifths. Okay, so this is a way. The reason I would like to introduce this tonight is that this is just a really good way. You can use this to do so many different things to learn your instrument, not just guitar. But for guitar players in general, in the first lesson I would just like to talk about is that it's a really good way to learn your fingerboard, to navigate around your fingerboard, to learn where all the notes are. And essentially what you do is you start anywhere on this circle and you go up a fifth, and then you do the same thing, and you go up a fifth and you do the same thing. So as an example, if we were talking about just wanting to learn major 7 chords on the guitar, right? If we start at the top, which is C, you can play a C major on the guitar. Then if you go up a fifth from there, you go to G major. So where can you play a G major 7 on guitar? Well, there's several spots, but this microphone's in the way. It always is in this segment. But this is the way to do it. Then you go up a fifth from there, which is D major 7, A major 7, E major 7, B major 7, F sharp major 7, C sharp major 7, F sharp. Where did I got lost? A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and then we're back to C. Now, the thing that's cool about this is that there are no more major 7 chords on the guitar. I played every one. There are different places to play them. There are different inversions that they can be played in. But the point is that if you go through the cycle, you always go up a fifth. If you go the other way, it's fourths, right? You can either way. It doesn't really matter. If you go all the way through, you learn all the spots to play everything on a guitar, and you could even apply it to like a lick if you want to do. If you're working on a lick in C, F, B flat, E flat. If you just keep going around, up a fifth all the time. Jazz musicians use this to learn how to play through challenging chord progressions, how to improvise through them. But it's really a good way just to make sure you're not forgetting anything in your practice routine. So that's the basic part of it. You can apply it to, you can start with just one note, go find all the C's, find all the F's, find all the B flats if you're going in fourths. So Andy, what do you, when you think about just circle of fifths and stuff, what have you learned in the past?
Circle of fifths, I can almost not contain my excitement. Sounds that sounds like a joke, but what you're talking about is nothing less than the fundamentals of Western harmony.
Yeah,
that is the thing that all Western tonal music is built upon. And so the entire concept of key areas, the way that you put key signatures to a key area, the voice leading between different chords and their relative function within a key area, everything has to do with that circle of fifths.
Yep.
So what you've demonstrated there is a great practical application of just something that a person can use it for as like a guideline through a practice routine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to start diving in further, it's absolutely mind-boggling the depth of musical information that basic construct offers.
Yep.
It's remarkable. It's literally like circles within circles to understand the hows, whys, and mechanisms of Western tonal music.
There you go, Jay. There's your lesson.
I know, that's so great. And it's what a perfect segue into tonight's subject, right? We are so grateful to have our master designer, Andy Powers, here. So somebody just asked in the feed, I thought this was about a master luthier. What's the deal with it? Well, this is what we do. I'm glad you're here hanging out with us. We chit chat for quite a while, and then we get into the meat and the bones of this subject. And tonight's subject is different genres. What music inspires Andy's guitar design, right? We're going to talk to Andy for just a little bit. We'll ask him some questions, and then we're going to go right to the feed and have you guys ask him questions. So get your questions ready. So what's with the chit chat? That's kind of what this is. It's a guitar nerd talk show. So we talk and joke and have fun. And we relax a little on Tuesday night. So Andy Powers, musical history. Man, you know a lot about it, and we're going to dive into that for a second, okay? I got a couple of questions, though. When did you fall in love with music? You've been doing this your whole life. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories, but tell everybody who's watching and listening here, when did you fall in love with music? When did you know that this was going to be your thing?
Man, I don't know how to answer that, Jay. I'm sorry. Because I started when I was very young, right? My parents are both recreational musicians. And so they love music. I don't know that either of them have ever played a show in their life. Should ask them some point. But they're like devoted listeners, like devoted music listeners in a wide variety of styles, and they love playing themselves. So I was fortunate to just sort of grow up with that, and I always loved music. And so for me, it's more like, it's like going through this thing where you fall in love with it again, or you fall in love with it in a new way, or you fall in love with a different form of music, or a different style of music, or a different band, or even a different song. And so there's not like one moment where I went, oh yeah, I'm a music fan. It was just, man, this is great. I mean, I love the songs that my mom and dad were playing on their acoustic guitar. So I really fell in love with that. Fell in love with, there was a band here in Southern California called Honk that did the soundtrack for a pretty influential surf movie called 5 Summer Stories. And somewhere my parents had, I think it was a bootleg copy of that soundtrack. But I love that music. I remember as a kid just loving the songs that they played. It was kind of a, like your quintessential Southern California rock band, B3 player, cool electric guitars, that kind of thing. Loved the bluegrass stuff that my dad would listen to all the time. My mom was super she's super into James Taylor, Jackson Brown, a lot of the kind of the Laurel Canyon, LA area singer songwriters. So we heard a lot of that kind of music. It's pretty big variety though, and so I liked all of that, and I got really into electric guitars. I got really into surf music, rock and roll, the rockabilly thing, and then it kind of spread in both directions. So I got more into the what we call classic rock stuff. Kind of went that direction, sort of chronologically through electric guitar, and then started working my way backwards through guitar. You know, I got really into Wes Montgomery, got really into kind of the jazz side of the world, really into Charlie Christian and Django Reinhardt and those sorts of guys. So it just kind of started in the middle and spread out. So I don't know that there's any one minute where it's like, oh my gosh, I love music. This is my thing. It just kind of always was. It was like, oh, this is my new thing. This is the new cool kind of music.
You were born that way, right? I mean, before you were, what came first? Were you a builder or a player?
Well, I started on piano, actually. I started on piano when I was, I don't know, whenever kids start piano, 5, 6 years old, something like that. And so I started taking some lessons like that. That was really fun. Gave my piano teacher a heart attack, maybe 2. She was a wonderful lady, wonderful, wonderful piano teacher, but she was as prim and proper a conservatory trained musician as you could ever meet. You know, I'm this sandy kind of surfer kid coming in going, oh, I want to play some boogie woogie. I think that's really cool. Let's do this. You know, she just about panicked and had a heart attack right then and there. But yeah, she came around. So I guess I started on that before I tried building guitar, but it all just seemed like it went together.
All right. So we know some insider information about Andy, but you went to school. What did you go to college for, Andy?
Well, I studied music as I was homeschooled until I finished high school, because that was, you know, at the time that was the best option for me. And so I graduated high school when I was pretty young. I was, I think, 15, 16, something like that. And then went to a local college for a little while because I had some great music teachers, and then ended up at UCSD to study music with a couple of guys who I'd really admired. So I did that, did some composition, did some, you know, kind of the whole jazz thing, did the guitar performance thing, but it was kind of a funny experience because I knew most of the folks that were teaching there through having worked on their instruments already, where I'd build guitars for them, you know, fix stuff and that kind of thing. Because San Diego's a pretty small area, and so you've been in an area for a long time, you eventually know all the other musicians. You know, it's a pretty small network. So by the time I showed up in classes, it was pretty familiar with a lot of the people there.
That's great. So let's get into guitar building. Let's get into the subject of tonight's show. Now we got a little bit of background, right? Andy studied music. He's an encyclopedia of musical genres. I think we've all had long discussions with you, Andy, and your knowledge is incredible. It's just fun to sit and listen to you, your experiences, the people you've played with, the stages you've shared, et cetera, et cetera. But guitar design. This is a guitar nerd talk show, and you're our master designer.
I'm the best you got. Come on.
Oh no,
this is really getting bad.
We were talking about that before you joined the feed, but anyway. I mean, look at your set. You've got, tools that, for days. It's incredible. But yeah. Genres. When you think about building certain instruments, are you thinking about genres? Are you thinking about who is going to play this or who this instrument is for?
Yes and no, because yes, there are rules, and yes, rules are meant to be broken, right? So there's a tendency for musicians who are playing in different styles to gravitate towards certain kinds of sounds, right? a certain instrument or a certain style of construction will make a characteristic sound that seems appropriate, whether by tradition, that's the sound we associate with this kind of music, so that's what you're supposed to do, or by preference. This sound does this thing well for this style of music. It seems right. And so on one hand, that's true. And on the other hand, rules are meant to be broken, and musicians will take an instrument and do something with it that it was never, ever meant to do. Like a great recent example, I don't know if you guys have listened much to Zach Brown play. Wonderful songwriter, great singer, really good guitar player. The guy's playing a nylon string guitar. And on one hand, you think, okay, like Segovia sort of a guitar. He's playing it really hard with a pick, playing country and bluegrass and rock and roll. It makes no sense. It makes no sense by traditional measures, except that he sounds really cool when he does it. You go, why not? You make it sound cool, fits your music really well. The guy knows what he's doing, right? And so you kind of just go with what sounds cool for your music. I mean, I can think of a lot of people who would take an instrument and then just create something totally fresh that was well past what the maker even imagined. And then it spawns a whole new genre of music. Like probably a more famous example would be, look at what Leo Fender did with the Stratocaster. Okay, so he's thinking of Eldon Chamberlain playing in like Bob Wills' band with the Texas Playboys. That kind of country western swing thing where it's basically jazz tunes, basically like big band, kind of Tommy Dorsey, Benny Goodman sort of arrangements of music, but adjusted for a more country flavor with fiddles and no horns. So you do strings, so guitars, fiddles, that kind of stuff, and take away the horn section. Same basic kind of music underneath it. So he was thinking those kinds of songs, those kinds of players. And then you fast forward 10 years, 15 years, something like that, and you have Jimi Hendrix playing his Strat and doing all kinds of amazing Jimi Hendrix stuff. You go, that's definitely not what Leo Fender had in mind, but I sure am glad he did what he did and made what he made. And I'm really glad that Hendrix stumbled into this thing to go, oh, I like the sound of this. Or you listen to, Gibson's version, they've got this cool Les Paul, right? Okay, so Les Paul, he's sort of signed on to it. You listen to his music, he's got this thing with Mary Ford and kind of playing like a pop version of some of Charlie Christian's style lines in his music. And that guitar didn't really take off for that kind of playing, mostly. So it's discontinued, but you fast forward a couple of years and you hear Eric Clapton playing with John Mayall's Blues Breakers through a 50-watt Marshall 212 kind of thing, just, melting. It basically maxed out dimed and just melting faces with this. You go, wow, certainly isn't what you guys intended, but wow, what a sound. So a lot of these things, we'll design them and we'll build them with some level of expectation of what a person would do. When a thing is inherently musical, you could put it in the hands of a musician, let them run with that instrument, let them apply all their creativity and see what happens. You end up getting great music. I mean, the road between musicians and instrument makers is a two-way street. It's always been that way throughout history. It's always been that, whether you are a violin builder and player, whether you are a piano or keyboard instrument builder and player, whether it's guitars or any other kind of instrument, a maker will build something in response to what a musician asks for, and they'll try to put everything that the musician asked for into it and then some. And that new instrument allows a musician to take off with fresh creativity and go in a whole different direction and expand their repertoire, expand their style and their techniques, all kinds of interesting things. So it's a somewhat complex but dynamic field.
Yeah, it's pretty special. I've been able to see some of the innovations. I mean, we saw what Hunter said, right? Andy says rules are meant to be broken. So, and then he invents V-class bracing. I mean, that's just some of the things, right? But I think another interesting one, Andy, is what did you have in mind? Let's just go to a particular instrument right now. What did you have in mind when you designed and dreamt up the Builder's Edition 816 with a sound port cutaway? What was your ideal player for that? Was there someone? Was there a genre?
I don't know if there's an ideal genre, but what I wanted to get out of that guitar was something broad and lyrical, almost orchestral, right? And in a way, the name, I mean, they people say, what's in a name? And I kind of feel that there's a lot in a name. You know, it's in some ways a name can be almost prophetic sometimes. But you look at the name of that guitar shape and you think, okay, a grand symphony, what is that? What is grand and what is symphonic? Well, a symphonic orchestra certainly is one of the most grand musical ensembles I can think of. You know, it's a huge range of frequency that you cover with all the instruments. The dynamic range is huge. It's broad, and yet it can be so lyrical. And so with that guitar, I thought, well, I want this to have good dynamic range, but I want it to be broad and expansive with this sort of vocalist-like quality. Now, what sort of music does that work with? Well, I don't know. It just has a more like a musical, it's a set of musical characteristics. And so if you're going to play lyrically, you're going to play melodically, you're going to play single note lines, boy, every one of those notes will have a very big, expansive quality, like an opera singer, you know, offering this note. Does it mean you can't ever strum a chord? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means it's going to be a really thick, big sounding chord. It's like a big giant harmony. You know, you look at it's kind of the last chord on a composer's or like a conductor's score. It's just a giant line of notes drawn across the whole staff. You know, it's that kind of big, thick sort of thing. And so you can build in musical characteristics, a musical personality, and then leave it up to the musicians to see what they want to do with it.
I love that. That is a theme that you always have. I've been here for 5 years. Grateful for that 5 years. And I've been involved in many different instrument launches. And the silly marketing team always tries to, we have to tell a story. We have to build demand, we generate demand, right? We have to put this thing out there. And often in these meetings with Andy, he's like, yeah, that's a great guitar. It's good for everybody. We'll see what people do with it. And it's your humble way of putting these things into the market. I think the 816 is a good example of Peter Sprague, who's a San Diegan, right? Who is a wonderful jazz player, phenomenal player. I mean, you could tell us more about Peter, but from all of the research, the listening I've done, it's just, wow, this guy. And then I got to go into the studio with him and it was real. And then, we have Andy Hull from Manchester Orchestra, who is
I really like his playing. I really like his music a lot.
Is quoted in saying, please tell Andy that this is by far the most wonderful and special acoustic instrument I have ever put my hands on.
Wow. And thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That was a mic drop. And then his next favorite instrument is a GT 811.
That's a fun one to play too. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know how to do it, but it's really interesting. It's why I wanted to talk about this subject. And in a minute, we're going to get to some questions. You got a lot of questions coming in, so we want to give everybody their time on the floor here. But it's more. I think we're inspired by your building, Andy, and the fact we've been a part of this and watching these different things come around. Lund, you've been here the longest of all of us on here. Lindsay's been here for quite a while. She took a break and then she came back. But what have you noticed in the way that we're now designing guitars with Andy on the bench doing the dirty work?
I noticed that they've gotten so complicated that we don't talk about specs as much, which is a good thing, I think. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of. There's a list of things that I've noticed, but we all come from a world of what's the bracing? How tall is the bracing? Where's it located in relation to the bridge? Does it reach the ends? Is it scalloped? Is it that's the what guitar players are used to hearing, right? Because that's the way marketing has always been done. But when Andy came on board, he started by taking Bob's designs and refining all of them to the point where it would have taken pages and pages to write all the script for it, because body shapes all of a sudden now had different thicknesses based on different woods, things like that, where we had never gotten that microscopic, if that's the right term, in the past. And it was interesting because a lot of the customers, especially that I deal with, they're so used to, they want to know exactly how to describe it, right? And just like Andy just said a minute, he goes, "Yeah, that's a good guitar. Go play it. Make some music on it." And it's been really fun to like try to throw that culture back at somebody when they say, "How much does it weigh? What's the weight of the guitar?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Do you like it? Do you like the way it sounds? Does it feel good? Is it pretty?" It's so. Yeah.
There's an interesting balance in the position or perspective that people will have of an instrument. If you want to think about an instrument as an engineer or a scientist, a mathematician or something like that, you're going to live in the world of numbers because that's the language that you use to quantify things, right? So you're going to look at all those measurements. You're going to look at how wide is the nut? How wide is the neck at the nut? Okay, that'll give you a number. Maybe it's 1 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so express it as a decimal if you want. It's 1.75. Cool. But on the musical side, let's say if you're thinking about a musician, what do you care? What I want is a neck that's comfortable. I don't care what number it is. It's got to be comfortable. It should feel right. What's the right nut width for you? I don't know, the one that you like. What's the right neck shape? The one that fits your hand well? Can you describe the neck shape? Yeah, it's comfortable. It has more empathy, or it fits my hand, or it fits the way that I want to hold it. Okay, so those are different words, different descriptions. And to me, those tend to fall more closely in line with the way that a musician would experience the guitar. And so what I like to do is I want to be translating, what is this? What feels comfortable as a guitar neck? What does it actually turn into if you were to put measurements to it or put numbers to it? Because we need to convert it so that it can be replicated so that we could make it consistently. But you shouldn't ever let the number drive the experience. The experience should be informing the maker what should be made to begin with. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Andy, you're great.
One thing I can add to this conversation, Jay, is that the age-old question of, does a cutaway affect the sound, right? Everybody wants to know the answer to that. And I remember when I first met Andy talking about that, and he said, "Well, to a mathematician, yeah, of course it would. To a musician, I don't know. Does it? Because if you look at it purely from a number perspective, as in the volume of the air capacity volume, I don't even know what the words are, the terms that I should be using, but of a body, it's going to change a little bit, right? But Andy's answer was, what's going to make a better player? Are you going to be a better guitar player if you have a cutaway? Are you going to play it more often? Are you going to get better? Get that's what you need. But you don't have to rely on that to make a good choice or to have a instrument that you fall in love with. And so, I've heard him say that the amount of coffee you drink has more of an effect on the sound than a cutaway. Right?
I think
True.
I think that's so freeing too, like what Len just said about what Andy's been saying. Like, I think there's hopefully some people in the chat will feel some freedom, because I think as guitarists, especially musicians in general, but guitarists especially, we have this we feel like we have to have something because we're told to have something. Like we're like this nut width is supposed to do that, or this guitar, or these tone widths, and I should have this, or I should have this pedal. I need to get a compressor because everybody says you have to have a compressor. And like what Powers just said, it's like, do you like the way it sounds? If you like the way it sounds, then you don't need a compressor. Like it's
Totally.
what is making what, like, if do you need a cutaway? Well, then you probably don't care that you won't notice the sound, and you probably don't care that what you might be missing because you like the access. Like, I think that's really freeing for the guitar community, because I think a lot of times we just get things because we're supposed to get things,
Or because
Does
it
that
looks good.
or that. So
Yeah.
I mean,
If you-
I've made those.
right. well, that is important.
I mean, come on. Right?
If it looks good.
I'm going to go pull out all these Jacksons I have in there. You know the deal. Pointy head.
Yeah.
It is the way it
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some Q&A in the feed. We got a lot of questions coming in, Andy, and these, we don't do a rapid fire with Andy, but we do as rapid fire as they get. All right, ready?
I got in the slow lane. Sorry.
All right, first question, Ken. Andy P. What do you use for a dust collection system in your shop? That's a great question.
Awesome. For certain machines, I'll use in my barn shop here, a pretty small, the Delta made this one. Just a typical dust collector. It's on wheel. I got to set it up on wheels. And so if I'm doing something that's really messy, thickness planer, something like that, I'll take a couple of minutes. I've got some quick connects on 4-inch pins, and I'll connect it that way. A couple of these machines really don't have provision for dust collection because they're so old. And those ones, just leave it, let it be a mess and sweep up when you're done. And so, there are times when I'm cleaning up the shop with a shovel because it's just a mess. But when I try to, I've got a little bit of dust collection, nothing crazy.
All right. Next question. With the pandemic going on, how much longer is it taking for the factory to manufacture guitars? I ordered a 314 CE recently.
It's at this point, it's not taking us longer to build the guitar. We're actually building at some of our highest production volumes ever. I mean, we're throwing everything that we can at it. The disruption in supply, that's been a real head scratcher, because some of those things that we count on that I wouldn't think of running out of, you realize, there's a delay. Simply because a company who makes this sandpaper also was making more dust masks than they usually make, because 6 months ago there was a huge need for dust masks, and so they converted more of their production to this and less production on sandpaper because not as many people were making sawdust. Okay, well, that means that you're going to run a little short on this. Oh, okay. I didn't really see that one coming. So there have been things like that have come up that kind of have us scrambling and working pretty hard to stay in front of. With some of the materials that we use, wood specifically, you look at all the different places in the world that wood for a guitar would come from. And one guitar, it's rare that you would make it, even if you could, it's rare that you would make it out of just one kind of wood. Like if you're waiting for a 314, well, you've got sapele on the back and sides. You've got a spruce stump from a different part of the world. You've got ebony fretboard. You've got mahogany for the neck. It's like, man, that guitar has more passport stamps than anybody. And that means that every one of those trees every one of those pieces of wood had to get on a boat to get here. And that made it hard, and there were some delays. So that has been a real challenge. It's kind of this like a game of whack-a-mole, that little kind of arcade game where you have a bunch of holes and this little thing pops up and you try and whack it with a mallet. It's like every day there's a new little thing popping up that keeps us on our toes.
There you go. I love this question. Sophia asks every week the guests, what's your favorite guitar shape? It has to be acoustic.
Boy, that's one I'd love to pass. I don't have a favorite because they all have a place. So it depends on what sound I want to make. I'm a huge fan of the little GT guitar. I love that thing because it's so comfortable to play. It fits on my lap so easily. My arm gets around so easily. It sounds really fun. I love that guitar. And there are other times that I really love the GP. That Grand Pacific shape is just so good. It's so good to put in front of a microphone. I love the versatility of our Grand Auditorium shape. I love the power of our Grand Orchestra.
Oh
man, they're so uniquely suited for what you want to get out of it. It feels like in the same way that I don't have a favorite song, because as soon as I say one favorite song, it makes me think of 20 others that I like as much or more. It's kind of similar to that.
Well, since that, yeah, I mean, this question goes hand in hand. Why does the GT Urban Ash play and smell so damn good? It's addicting.
Okay, so Shamalash actually, I think a lot of people forget this about woods. Woods have a smell that is just remarkable. They are so diverse and so wide-ranging. Every one of them has a smell. Like, in fact, just beyond I've got a little telephone here that I'm talking into, but sitting just behind it on my bench, I have a piece of sandalwood. If you've ever heard the word sandalwood as it relates to like a perfume or cologne or something like that, other smells, This is the actual stuff, right? Woods have amazing smells, amazing aromas. Shamalash smells wonderful. It smells a little like straw when it's green and it's wet form, like right as you cut it. It smells almost grassy. But as it dries out and you season it and you get it ready to build a guitar with, by the time you're building it, there's this kind of sweet aroma that reminds me of like a bale of hay or something in the best way. It's like a really kind of warm and inviting aroma.
I'm changing and I'm changing now that we're all owners, right? Right. I'm changing your title, Andy, to Master Guitar Chef. That's so great.
It feels a lot like that.
Right? The way you talk about it, building guitars is great. All right, we got another one here for you. Andy, any chance you'll build a classical guitar?
Oh man, I'd love to. I love making classical guitars,
Please.
Nylon string guitars. I love the Academy 12. That's a really cool guitar. I love the way those work. I love how they sound. But a true classical guitar, yeah, it's so fun to build. They're so neat. I can tell you though, if I were to build one, it probably wouldn't be along the same lines as like one of the iconic, what we think of as a classical guitar, like a Rodriguez or Ramirez or something like that, or even one of Herman Hauser's guitars. Probably wouldn't come in that form. I would probably build it to be a little more suited for a wider range of playing style. I think mostly because I'm heavily influenced by a lot of the jazz players and Brazilian players, guys who are playing kind of Latin music and things with a nylon string guitar. I love that sort of flavor and that sort of sound. So I might build in something that's a little more linear than what I think of as a true classical guitar. But yeah, I'd love to. Be a lot of fun.
Hunter, our man Hunter, he wins the trivia a lot. Anyway, Hunter, what models of guitars, luthiers, and styles of guitar building technique influence your designs? What ultimately do you hope your legacy in guitar building is? Like, he had to take a drink of water.
Man, I don't want to sound like a politician, but I'm going to say that I like all of the guitars. I like them all. I like the bad ones. I like the good ones. I like the sort of funky ones, the offbeat ones, like the off-color guitars. Like they've all got something going because a creative musician will find a way to use them. I mean, I have a good musician friend, and he once brought a Silvertone electric guitar like this. I think it was originally supposed to plug into the case. The amp was built into the case.
Yep.
And he fronts this rock band, and he goes, "Man, I really like the way that this one sounds. I'm going to take it on tour. Can you get it like up and ready for a tour?" And I'm looking at this thing going, "Dude, it's got a crooked fret. Like, I kid you not, fret 9 was actually crooked. It was like so wrong." And at the same time, it's actually really cool. So you do a fret job, you try and get it as close as work as well and reliably as you can make it. You go, "Hey, cool, that's great." And so I love all the guitars. There's so many great makers. I don't really want to leave any of them out. I really love Bob Benedetto's archtop guitars. Yeah, aside from being like one of the coolest people on the planet, he was a big influence on me. I love Bill Collings guitars, Dana Bourgeois, Richard Hoover with Santa Cruz, Jim Olsen. I love the Martin guitars. I love the Gibson guitars, the Fender guitars. Like, they're all so fun. The cool Stella guitars are really neat. I mean, it's tough to go wrong. And so that part, I'm not sure I can really answer that, because I love to take all of what we know as guitar lovers, as a guitar community, as guitar historians, and take that and put it into a guitar that goes, "This would be musically interesting. Let's play that. Let's make that guitar." As far as a legacy, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that too much. But what I would hope to do is build something that's a little more than what a musician could ask for, and see if there's some value that I can contribute into the broader musical community. I'd be happy with that. I would be happy with that, to have contributed to something that's given so much to me, that I love so very much.
Love it. Ken has a good question. Out of all the guitars you've personally built, which is your favorite and why? We should take an over. We should have our bet on what Andy's going to say. The three of us. Okay.
Man, it's going to be the one that I work on tomorrow. I'm working on this one. It's going to be so good. It's not done yet, but it's going to be great.
I knew it.
I have two guitars that were part of a trio that I built a long time ago that I really love playing. And they were part of what I called, at the time, I called it the 100-Year Guitar Project, because they were guitars that were built with materials that were 100 years old, built in styles that were popular 100 years ago, kind of with an aesthetic and a flavor that would have been popular 100 years ago, using tools that were available 100 years ago. And so it was kind of like sort of an exercise in seeing what that was like. It was an experience thing. I love the way those guitars sound. I built an acoustic arch top, a flat top, and a mandolin that were voiced to be played together as a trio. And that was pretty fun, because on the rare chances that I get that three musicians play them together, they sort of sound like one instrument, like that they were built as an ensemble, and they're good independently, but together that was a lot of fun. My kids really like the sound of those ones, so I play a lot of bedtime songs on those guitars. I might love them for that reason, just as much as the other stuff.
I love it. Ken. Hey, by the way, we got a lot of Kens, right? Once when we went to when I went to Cameroon, we had to take some medicine so that we didn't get sick. Malaria medicine, I think it was, right? And someone told me I was going to have night terrors on the medicine. So I was like, okay, let's see if I'll have night terrors. You want to know what my nightmare was? It wasn't even a nightmare. It was the greatest dream ever. That I went to a show and it was a trio, and it was Kenny Rogers, Kenny Loggins, and Kenny G, and they were called the Kens. So that was my night terror. And Ken Wilson, you got a really good question here. Why did you put the strap button on the back of the neck of the 324 CE Builders Edition?
Oh, that's a great question. It's because it was the least of the evils. Okay. Now, I like when people tie a strap up on the headstock. Okay, that works really well. The guitar balances physically very well, and it's totally out of your way when you're playing. So that works pretty good, but I don't think many people remember that you could still do that. That it wasn't outlawed or anything like that. So you can still choose that if you want. The thing is that we put a ton of effort into making this really beautiful and complex contour cutaway, where it's beveled on the top, the heel's all cut away and carved to match the shape of the neck heel, deliberately so that as the player runs their fretting hand up the fingerboard, they don't run into anything. You don't have that little triangle of body left over to get in your way. You kind of like take the speed bumps out. And so it didn't seem right to put a strap button right in the treble side of the heel. It's like, well, that just defeated the purpose of all this ultra complicated woodworking we did. And so we put it on the back more like what I would do with an archtop guitar. That's pretty conventional for an archtop guitar. And it makes the guitar, it's balanced pretty well. It makes it hang a little farther forward from the player, which ends up helping the low end response of the guitar because you're not damping the back quite so heavily most of the time. And so it's like it had a little more going for it than putting it in the typical position on the treble side of the heel.
I'm on mute. Andy, any chance the American Dream series will expand?
Oh, I'd love to. That'll be a lot of fun when that day comes. I mean, that started as you know, kind of under dire circumstances, like what can we make? What can we do here? And has turned into something that I really love. I think we all do. I mean, it has that, like the personality of a cup of black coffee. You know, there's like nothing like crazy flamboyant about it, really fancy, even really expensive, anything like that. It just does what you need to do. You know, it's got a personality. So yeah, I'd love to see that expand. I can imagine that in the future we will. You know, it'll always keep some of its roots, kind of it'll understand where it came from. And so when we see different woods that would be appropriate for it, we'll probably build some with different woods at different points, maybe a few different shapes or something as it seems appropriate. So yeah, that day will come, I'm sure.
Phil says, what is your thought process on coming up with the next big innovation like bracing, shapes, etc., when nobody else has thought of it yet? That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Man, how in the world do you think of something that hasn't been thought of yet? You don't really do it on purpose. You sort of stumble into it. You know, so you work with the tools and the idea that you have in front of you. And the process of making tends to be what leads to the process of inventing. Right? So if you think about more broadly outside of even the guitar world, inventions don't typically just arrive. The good ones came from somebody in a shop making something. So they'll be working with an idea and either run into the limitation of that idea, or the process of working with this will spark a new line of thinking that lets them get around it. And so for me, there's never an idea where you go, okay, today I've woken up, it's time to make a new innovation. today is the day. Let's change the world today. Let's make something new. It doesn't work like that. At least for me, I have to come into the shop and be thinking about, well, here's what I was working on yesterday. Here's what I'm working on today. Let me see where I can go with this. And sometimes you get far enough forward where you realize, I'm stuck. Let me take a step back and think about this some more, maybe from a different angle. I'll just think about it, or maybe even just shelve the idea for a while and come back to it later. So it's never a deliberate linear sort of thing. You have to be working on it. Like you got to be in motion to get there.
Look at this question. Do you guys see this question? This is I love this. Len, is there a reason there's so little attention in your line to mahogany?
Yes, there is. Because not as many people ask for it. And I don't know why, because it's got to be one of my all-time favorite woods for almost anything. Like I've played this kind of mental game where I say, okay, if I only had one wood to work with for the rest of my life, if I could only choose one, which wood do you choose? You choose mahogany, because you could build anything. You could build the whole guitar out of it if you have to. You could build a house with it. You're stuck on a desert island. You could build a boat and sail away. You could build anything out of mahogany. And if you get to choose two woods, then you pick a hard one and a soft wood, like you pick spruce and maple. And because then there's even more cool instruments and things that you could do. But I would like to be building more mahogany guitars. One of the reasons is that I love how it gets harvested. I mean, I don't know if many people realize this, but more than a century ago, British colonists, when they went to Fiji, they started planting on purpose. They started farming mahogany. And what we think of as Honduran mahogany, but it's really the mahogany from Central America that grows all throughout that region. They started planting it a century ago. Well, there's vast amounts of this stuff that are really great high rate material that are harvested and grown in some of the most unbelievably responsible ways. That's a great wood to be using for the future. Not to mention it sounds amazing. Not to mention it has this long history behind it because it's great. So yeah, I love to be building more mahogany guitars.
Not to mention the 517 is perfect. Oh, if I could just
I'm a mahogany fan, so
I was in a studio recently singing Serpent here in San Diego in Kensington, and we mic'd up a 517, and Ben Moore, he's engineered a lot of really great records.
He's a good engineer. He's a good B3 player, by the way.
Great B3 player, yeah. And he comes walking in and he says, "What's that? What's that? What's that? You got to tell me what that is." And it was a natural top 517, and it's magical. Yeah. I feel you on the Len. I feel you. I love it. This is a good question. C.A. Harris, how many new designs do you hope to make per year?
It's an interesting question. It's a logical one as a designer, but we don't really work with like set calendars necessarily. We tend to live in a annual cycle of working on something, kind of like a farmer, where you sow your seeds in the spring and you work on them through the summer, and then you harvest them in the fall, and then you rinse and repeat. But designs, they're always going at different rates. So at any one time, there could be many or few projects that you're working on based on letting each one take the amount of time that it needs. And so there isn't like a quota where I say, okay, I need to build 10 new guitar designs this year so that I can cut 9 of them out and have one. You've got all these kinds of things that you're working on, and some of them are in their infancy, and some of them are almost ready, and some of them are in the thick of their development cycle. So it kind of depends based on what you're working on.
I got a few more questions from the feed, and then we're going to move the show along. But I love this question. David asks, what is your all-time favorite non-Taylor guitar? Ooh.
Man, people say favorites. They want to know the one favorite. And that feels like asking which of your kids are your favorite. You know, well, I have favorites for different reasons. You know, I have favorite archtop guitars. I have favorite solid body electric guitars. I have favorite flat top guitars. There are favorites of guitars that I've worked on that were built by other people. There were favorites from this guy's collection. That's a really tough one to answer. I don't know that I could.
Nothing? What's your favorite guitar today? The one you play tomorrow?
Favorite guitar today. Favorite guitar today. Actually, I'm not at liberty to talk about that one yet because we haven't launched it yet. But it's so fun. I'm having such a good time with it. So that was sort of my favorite guitar for today. But I'm gonna take a pass and say I played a really cool GT today that I loved. It was super great. And the only one that might have been better from today, one of our engineers, he found, I don't know where it had been, he found a prototype that was for a 517 guitar, a GP, and it had a fantastic mahogany back on it. That guitar sounded so good. It was like, man, this has really come into its own in the last couple of years that it's been kicking around in our tooling and engineering building, hanging on somebody's office wall or whatnot. That guitar sounded amazing. So that was probably one of my favorites for today.
That's great. I heard you playing something today. That's all I got to say. And as I was walking by, I kind of went, And then I
didn't realize anybody was around.
I'm not allowed to hear.
A lot of fun though.
I heard you playing something. I knew it was you playing, so that's good. Okay, get a couple of more questions in here. I saw one. Yeah, no, you can't ask that one. That's not even nice. How about the G? Oh, yeah. How about a GT? Where'd it go?
Right. So a GT that was made with mahogany.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool guitar. I built a couple of them. I think I gave one to Phineas, singer, songwriter, producer guy up in LA. He's got one that I built like that. And yeah, that's a super cool option. That's a really fun guitar to make. So I won't say when, but just, I'll just acknowledge that that's a very fun guitar to play.
Close. Yeah. Okay. Luthier special reserve. Oh, here we go. This is the one. Hunter with the question again. I know luthiers generally have a special reserve of treasured wood hid away. What's your favorite? Do you have one, and what's your favorite?
Yeah, I've got some pieces. We've kept a small handful of really, really, really spectacular Brazilian rosewood. And it was stuff from a tree that we called Milagro, or it was known as Milagro. It was in Spain for a long, long time, and it was fully documented, just amazing pedigree behind the stuff. So we got a lot of that. And Bob and I had wanted to turn most of it into player grade guitars. So that's what we did. We, instead of charging like crazy absorbent prices, we built a bunch of player grade guitars that were really fun. And from that batch, we picked a handful that were like, I don't really even want to use it. I would just say I would rather die and leave it to a guitar maker who comes after me, who would be a lot better than I am. It's just spectacular. So we got a little bit of that. I've got a couple other special things that are fun that different friends have collected and given me. I mean, wood collecting is kind of a weird thing, right? I mean, you end up with what looks like a bin of scraps in the corner of your shop. You realize like, oh, well, that one was from this tree and that one was from that. It's sort of an unusual thing. I've got a little slice of California brown oak that came from a tree up in Chico. After it came down, it was taken down, and kind of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend got a piece out of it. It was the largest oak tree known in the world at the time. And it was struck by lightning and then ended up dying. So they took the tree down, and I have a little piece of that. I'm not sure what to do with it yet. Make a guitar out of it at some point. I've got another piece that a friend gave me. He had gotten it through, I forget all of the story, but a giant sequoia had fallen down and somebody was reclaiming it, and he's friends with that guy, so he got a little piece, so he gave me a little piece of that to do something special with. So I collect some things here and there and go, yeah, someday when the right project comes through, it sort of tells you, yeah, this is the time to use it.
2 more questions.
All right,
ready? And then we got Lindsay's question, which I can't wait for. Actually, I'm going to ask one useless question, but okay. Where did it go? I saw this question that was awesome. Oh, here we are. How secretive is Taylor Guitars with their prototype guitars? Ooh.
Well, it depends on which prototype, because sometimes we'll sell them. We'll just say, oh, this is actually non-conforming. It might not be the exact aesthetic treatment that I wanted to do on a guitar or something, but functionally the guitar was really good. So sometimes those guitars will say, hey, it should be making music. It's a perfectly functional, good guitar. Let's get into the hands of a musician. Sometimes those guitars, prototypes or otherwise, will go out with artists so that I can see, oh, how does it work after 6 months on tour? Or how does it work after you've been playing it for 3 months and you've created some sounds with it? So some of them we're not very quiet about at all. We might not talk about them openly, but they're watching them, they're seeing them. And some things I know are so far out there that I don't even tell other folks at Taylor about them. I just work on them and let them develop without too much scrutiny. Because like I said earlier, the process of making is what leads to the process of inventing. Sometimes you just got to let something unfold in the timeline and in the ways that it wants to unfold.
I love it. There's this one, Vic G. By the way, go Giants, Vic G. I'm wearing this hat for you. Can you describe for us the guitar that's currently on your workbench?
Well, at this very second, I'm looking at my workbench and there's no guitar on it.
Just don't look at this, Andy.
Yeah, one of the guitars I was working on today, I probably can't tell you or probably can't describe it because, oh man, it's just so fun. It's going to be such a cool guitar. But I was working on, coincidentally, a mahogany GT that was an awfully neat guitar. So just saying, maybe some point.
Love it.
But what else are you working on today that's causing you to fume out a little bit there in your space?
Oh, well, that was the big surfboard. Yeah, that was kind of a fun thing. That's sitting on a different workbench, but I was building a 1920s, like a late 1920s solid redwood hot curl plank board. It's the sort of surfboard that guys would have been riding here in Southern California back, kind of Depression era or pre-World War II at least. And some other surfboard shapers had started this project maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and the 2 guys who had started it have both passed away since then. So this came to me to complete and ride. So I've been working on that. It sat in my shop for the last 7 or 8 years because the plank wasn't dried as to the degree that I needed it to be. And so it came time, it was apparent that it was ready, so I'm making that. I'll ride that in the next week or two. It's just about done now. So that'll be kind of a fun one to try.
All right, we got
bit of a different surfing experience.
we got 2 more questions because we get these questions all the time, and I would love to hear the answers from you. Then we'll move the show along. This is a good one. We get this a lot, Andy. Would you build me a guitar with my own Brazilian rosewood, provided it were the right?
No, I will not. I won't do it for a couple of reasons. One of them is that people don't realize that guitar making sometimes goes wrong. It sometimes goes wrong. Some pieces of wood just refuse to turn into a guitar. And you start working with this thing and you realize, it cracked, but it was a one of a kind essentially. And how do I replace it? Well, I can't replace it. So yeah, I can't do that. So that's the big thing. And the other thing is times have changed so much with the way that wood is harvested, and in wanting to do the very, not just satisfy the law and the regulations, but actually do what's the correct thing to do for the health of forests, for the future of guitar woods. The era of some of those kinds of materials, like Brazilian rosewood, those largely have passed. So I don't really want to be participating in that as a regular thing. Now we've got 1 or 2 sets that Bob and I have sort of put aside to go, maybe someday. But even still, there are days when I look at it and go, that's not actually what excites me most as a guitar maker. I really love projects like the Urban Timber project. I love Shimlash. That stuff works great. I love great koa. A great koa guitar is like, man, this seems almost too good to be true. This stuff is beautiful. It sounds amazing. It works wonderfully. I can't ask for anything more than this for a guitar wood. That totally gets me going. So yeah, it's a different scenario nowadays.
The K21 is amazing. That's another
I like that guitar.
Super nice guitar.
What a wonderful instrument. It's beautiful. Anyway, okay. And then this last question, we get these all the time. So I would love to hear it from you, Andy. Will you try materials other than wood, like carbon fiber, or for future builds?
I've tried it actually. I've done some things with carbon fibers, with synthetic materials, and I tend to come back to wood for a few reasons, mostly because we like it. And it's simple enough to just say, well, we like it. So we like building wooden guitars. So that's mostly what we want to do. There's some technical aspects to it. One of them is that many materials like carbon fiber, while technically they have great resonance characteristics, it tends to not differentiate between pleasing musical sound and harsh, almost noise sound. And so it'll reflect is both the non-musical kind of aggressive, almost distorted edge, the part that you really want to dampen away out of a sound, out of an instrument, the stuff I consider noise. You want to get rid of that. And you're left with just the good musical part of a sound. Woods tend to do that very well. And some of the man-made materials or synthetics, they don't differentiate between the good and the bad very well. And so I don't love the results from that oftentimes. The second aspect is that people usually talk about synthetics and think, well, that's a more sustainable choice. That's a more environmentally friendly choice because you're not harvesting wood and using wood. Well, that actually couldn't be further from the truth. Because when you plant a tree, you get the entire environmental benefit from it. You get the carbon sequestration, you get the habitat creation, you get the soil erosion benefits. You get all this tremendous good out of that tree growing. And then when you're going to turn that into a wooden product that can last for a century or more, man, that's an ecologically and environmentally wonderful thing to do. But with a lot of synthetic materials, the creation of those materials is ultra harmful. You've got some pretty complex and environmentally damaging resins, materials, the formation of it, the manufacturing of it. It's not always a great scenario. So I'm a fan of wood. I really like that.
Love it. Love it. Of course, real quick, JD wanted to throw out there, what about humidity? We'll get to that next week. Andy, it's always great having you on. I have one question, and then we'll go to Lindsay's question. My useless question this week is, what song do you wish you had written?
Going to defer to another songwriter friend named Jack Tempchin on that one. If I could phone a friend, I like his answer. He goes, "The Wheels on the Bus." Okay, you know that kid song, "The Wheels on the Bus"? It is the most widely sung and widely translated song on planet Earth. I think he's got it right.
That's so good. That's so good. All right.
Really, yeah, that's a thinly veiled version of what's your favorite song?
The Wheels on the Bus. I think
Wheels on the Bus.
Wheels on the Bus go round and round. I love it. Andy, you know what time it is, and I think you have a song.
Yeah. I got Wheels on the Bus going through my head right now, though.
So,
Sorry to do that to you.
Who could guess what she might say? They are always good. She has a way. Here we go. Let's hear from Lindsay.
That was new. That was new.
Lindsay Love with her question. Lindsay's question. I love this part of the show. What is it? Go for it.
Yeah, I think I was gonna go funny, but now I'm gonna just I'm gonna go with the one I think in my spirit's telling me. So if you were Andy, if you could share a meal, because I'm curious to know who these people are. If you could share a meal with any 4 individuals, living or dead, you don't. Obviously, your wife is gonna be there, so you don't have to pick her, even though because we know she's already picked. But 4 individuals, living or dead, who would they be? Who are you sharing a meal with?
Ooh. Nikola Tesla? Oh, that might be a bad call, actually. Art Tatum, piano player. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep it musical. Okay. I want to have dinner with Art Tatum. I want to have dinner with Django Reinhardt. I'd love to have dinner with Wes Montgomery. And possibly Vladimir Horowitz.
That is a solid dinner party.
That is a solid dinner party.
What are you serving, Andy? What are you guys eating?
I'm not sure. That might be too far.
The conversation's going to be good, but my gosh.
Yeah.
The jam session afterwards is going to be good too.
I'm really curious to know where that would go.
It would be wild. It would be wild.
By the way, Lindsay, your background is fantastic.
You like the purple?
Yeah, I think we all need to go to this vibe where we have this, patchwork kind of color blocking.
It's kind of epic. It looks like a game show or something.
Come on.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about this after the show.
Okay.
Jeez, this is fantastic. Okay. You know what segment's next? We can go real quick too. I just got a couple of questions. But Andy, I'm going to play a use clip, then you play a song, then we can go. Ready? Here we go.
Two minutes of sports, What will be talked today? It could be balls in play with the PGA. The rough was rough, John Rahm was tough. Could be hot at bats with baseball cats. Watch the show, Jay might be changing hats on 2 Minutes of Sports.
This is just
Yeah.
that was a wonderful one, Andy. This is great. This is just a quick update. I just want you to know I want to give a shout out to Paul Tobias. Paul Tobias, yes, the Cubs are up on the Cleveland baseball team that we know of. I think Gabe O'Brien is a big Cleveland fan. It seems like 2016 again, but the Cubs are, up 5-0. Good job here, Lindsay. We got a series going on. I don't know if you've been catching up or paying attention. There is a basketball game right now, the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Clippers.
Mhm.
I got Clips in 6. What do you got?
I got Suns in 5.
Wow. Well, it's 47-48 going into the half. So
Yeah.
see about that. Andy Powers, who do you have? The Clippers or the Suns?
He's got Horowitz.
I'll go with the first one.
All right, we got Clips and 6. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. 10. I probably hear you on that one too.
Wrong choice, Andy.
No, it's. I don't have a. I don't
6
have
of one, half dozen of another.
Yeah, I don't have a horse in the dog race, so I just like giving Lindsay some stuff here. All right, it's time.
I embarrassed myself earlier this last week. I was having dinner with some folks, and they were talking about March Madness, which I wrongly assumed was a baseball thing because it was in the spring. And I thought, well, baseball's a spring thing.
Yeah.
Baseball, right?
It was a good guess.
And I failed.
Lund, you had something to say.
Before we do trivia, I just wanted to add something, if I may, Jay. I'll be quick here. Last week on Wednesday, it was our first annual owners celebration, and there was a big 2-hour party that was thrown in the parking lot. We put up a big tent, and we invited some musicians to play. I wasn't there, but I was sent a video, and we had the people who are helping us guide the finances of the ESOP program that has just started. And Kurt spoke, and Andy spoke. And I just wanted to say, Andy, your speech on Wednesday was so well delivered, man. And I wasn't able to be there to thank you for what you said, but I watched it on video. He did a really great job of he introduced Bob Taylor, and he did a really good job of being a leader, of coming through as a real positive message and tying it all together with a minted coin from 1974 that he gave to Bob on that day. And I just wanted to say that I was moved by your presentation. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Really
I
well done.
appreciate that.
Really well done.
Yeah, I wish, sometimes this is inside baseball because it's not something that we're going to show everybody. But I would agree, Andy. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your guitar design. It's been a ride for 5 years that I've been on, and it's just getting more and more exciting. So thank you for that. It's great.
Yeah,
it's my pleasure.
All right, it's time for trivia.
Yeah.
All right. This one's special. Again, the prize, our favorite, Z from, he was, if you have seen the I Know What Love Is video, Z was in the video with his daughter. He was on the song. He is a wonderful friend of Taylor. He's just loves the brand. And so he wrote us an email and he said, I want to give away 1 month of Tony Policastro's acoustic challenge. We don't know how it's going to work, but we will make sure that it happens. Okay. I thought it was such a good gift. And Z, you're so gracious for doing it. Thank you so much. That being said, this is trivia. This is how this works. We have one rule, right? Gabe O'Brien, who's not joining us tonight or isn't on the show tonight, and Paul Tobias are not allowed to answer questions. That's just the deal. If you win, right, what we need you to do is we need you to put the answer in the feed. The first person that we see with the answer, we will pull your name up onto the screen and you will win. So if you win, you got to email us at primetime@taylorguitars.com and we will get you all organized with Z and Tony and all that kind of stuff. All right. Now, this is a special one again. Like I said, it's very special. So the question is special. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's trivia question is just for you, Z. Here we go. What is the proper scientific name for Cocobolo?
Most days it don't matter how much useless stuff you know, but here on the primetime part of our show is trivia. You might just win some swag. Trivia. What's in that goodie bag? Trivia.
Yeah, good job. Hey, the Googles went fast. The Google was Eric,
that was the battle of the fastest internet right there. Who can Google? What is it?
Eric, even if you knew, we're just going to go with that one. You knew. All right. That was fantastic, Eric. Good job. Thank you so much, Z. Thank you so much, Andy Powers, for joining us. Always thank you, Andy Lund, for your wonderful music. And Lindsay, it's been great to see you face to face in the office again. It's been really great.
Ditto.
Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Andy, do you want to play us out maybe?
Whoops.
Oh, I like that start.
It's what we were talking about before. Just move it up. Whoa. What was it? What was it? It was prime time. It was prime time. What the heck was it? It was a half step. Episode 48. Andy Powers did return to talk about inspiration. From him we did learn. He fell in love with music played by his mom and dad. The Southern California sound always sounded so rad. Well, he doesn't have a favorite shape or a favorite song. He says tie a strap around the neck and wait for innovation to come along. Things you learn on prime time on any given Tuesday. It's prime time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Andy. See you next week.
Next up, episode 49. Uh-oh. It's going to be a good one. See you next week.